You know what's hilarious? We spend our entire lives worrying about things that either never happen or wouldn't matter even if they did. Marcus Aurelius, literally the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, had everything at his fingertips. And you know what kept him up at night? The same nonsense that keeps you up at night. Whether people liked him, whether his decisions were perfect, whether tomorrow would bring disaster. But here's the plot twist that'll blow your mind. The moment he stopped white-knuckling reality and started flowing with it, everything started working. And I'm not talking about some mystical manifestation garbage. I'm talking about cold, hard Stoic philosophy that's been making people's lives exponentially better for over 2,000 years. So buckle up, because today we're diving into 11 ancient truths that'll make your life start clicking into place the second you stop treating worry like it's your full-time job. The first truth is going to make you question everything you think you know about control. Truth number 1. You only control 3 things, and your Wi-Fi connection isn't one of them. The Stoics were obsessed with this concept called the dichotomy of control, which is just a fancy way of saying there's stuff you can control and stuff you can't, and confusing the two is basically signing up for a lifetime subscription to Anxiety Monthly. Epictetus, who went from being a literal slave to one of the most influential philosophers in history, put it brilliantly. Some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. Revolutionary, right? Except we still don't get it. You control exactly 3 things: your thoughts, your actions, and your responses. That's it. That's the list. You don't control whether you get the promotion. You don't control whether your crush texts you back. You don't control whether it rains on your wedding day or whether your sourdough starter dies despite your best efforts. You control whether you show up prepared for the interview. You control whether you send a genuine message. You control whether you book a venue with indoor options and whether you actually feed your bacterial colony. The moment you stop pouring energy into controlling things that were never yours to control in the first place, something magical happens. That energy redirects itself toward the things that actually matter, the things you can influence. You stop checking your email every 14 seconds hoping for a response you can't control and start crafting better emails. You stop obsessing over whether people like you and start being someone genuinely worth liking. It's not resignation, it's strategic energy management, and it's the difference between spinning your wheels in mud and actually getting somewhere. Seneca watched people torture themselves over things completely outside their control and said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Translation: your worry is creating problems that don't exist yet and probably never will. Stop auditioning for disasters that haven't been cast yet. Here's where it gets even better. Truth number 2. The obstacle is the way, and your biggest problem is actually your biggest opportunity wearing a disguise. Marcus Aurelius, again, the guy running the Roman Empire while barbarians literally tried to destroy it, wrote in his private journal, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Let that marinate for a second. The thing blocking your path isn't just something to overcome, it is the path. Think about it. Every single person you admire, every success story you've ever heard, every transformation that made you think, "Wow, I want that," it all came from someone hitting a wall and deciding to climb it instead of crying in front of it. Your rejection at a job isn't the universe conspiring against you. It's redirecting you towards something better or teaching you what you need to learn before you're ready for what you actually want. Your failed relationship isn't proof you're unlovable. It's a masterclass in what you need and what you won't tolerate anymore. The Stoics understood that obstacles do 3 things. They test you, they teach you, or they redirect you. Sometimes all 3 at once. That business that failed, it taught you what doesn't work, tested whether you have the resilience to try again, and redirected you toward a better model. That friendship that imploded, it revealed who people really are, tested your boundaries, and redirected you toward relationships with actual substance. Here's the kicker. When you stop seeing obstacles as problems and start seeing them as curriculum, you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being a student of life. And students who pay attention eventually graduate into the life they actually want.
Ryan Holiday wrote an entire book called The Obstacle is the Way, based on this principle. And spoiler alert, it changed millions of lives because this truth is absolute fire when you actually apply it. But wait, there's an even more counterintuitive truth coming.
Truth number 3. Negative visualization isn't pessimism. It's the cheat code to gratitude and preparation. Okay, this one sounds absolutely bonkers until you understand it. The Stoics practiced something called premeditatio malorum, which is Latin for premeditation of evils. Basically, they spent time imagining everything going wrong. Your modern self-help guru would have a stroke hearing this, but stay with me because this is genius-level psychology wrapped in ancient wisdom. Seneca would imagine losing his wealth. Epictetus would imagine losing his freedom, which he'd already experienced, so he knew exactly what he was visualizing. Marcus Aurelius would imagine losing his position, his family, everything. Why? Because when you mentally prepare for loss, 2 incredible things happen. First, you stop taking things for granted. When you imagine your morning coffee being the last one, suddenly that coffee tastes like liquid gold. When you imagine your partner not being there tomorrow, you stop picking stupid fights about whose turn it is to do the dishes and start appreciating that you have someone to share dishes with in the first place. It's like a gratitude hack that actually works because you're not forcing yourself to be grateful. You're genuinely recognizing the temporary nature of everything good in your life. Second, when bad things actually happen, and they will because you're a human living on Earth, not a cartoon character in a consequence-free zone, you're prepared. You've already mentally rehearsed this scenario, so instead of falling apart, you execute the plan. It's like a fire drill for your life. Nobody hopes for a fire, but everyone's glad they practiced getting out when the alarm actually goes off. The paradox is beautiful. By imagining loss, you worry less about loss. By preparing for the worst, you're free to enjoy the best. By acknowledging that everything is temporary, you stop clinging so desperately that you strangle the joy out of the present moment. Now here's where your mind is about to explode.
Truth number 4. Your opinion about what happens to you matters infinitely more than what actually happens to you. Epictetus dropped this absolute bomb. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Sounds like a motivational poster at your dentist's office, right? Except this simple statement contains the entire key to human freedom, and we keep missing it because we're too busy blaming our circumstances for our misery. 2 people get caught in the rain. One person complains, shows up to their meeting drenched and miserable, and lets their wet clothes ruin their entire day. The other person laughs, shows up drenched and makes a joke about it, and moves on with their life completely unbothered. Same rain, same wetness, completely different experience. The difference? The meaning they assign to getting wet. You get fired. You can decide that means you're a failure, you're unemployable, your life is over, and you should just give up. Or you can decide it means you're now free to find something better. You've been released from a situation that clearly wasn't right, and you now have information about what you don't want. Same event, radically different reality based entirely on the story you tell yourself about it. Here's what the Stoics understood that we keep forgetting. External events are neutral. They just are. A rainstorm doesn't hate you. A layoff isn't personal. A breakup isn't the universe punishing you. These are just things that happen. You are the one assigning meaning, and whatever meaning you assign becomes your reality. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived Nazi concentration camps, wrote Man's Search for Meaning based on this exact Stoic principle. He watched people in identical circumstances respond completely differently based solely on the meaning they chose to assign to their suffering. Some people crumbled. Others found purpose. Same camp, same horror, different stories, different outcomes. The power you have is absurd when you really think about it. You can't control the rain, but you control whether rain ruins your day. You can't control getting fired, but you control whether getting fired ruins your life. Stop outsourcing your emotional state to external circumstances and start taking responsibility for the meaning-making machine between your ears. And just when you thought it couldn't get more liberating.
Truth number 5. Death isn't morbid. It's the ultimate perspective tool that makes you stop wasting time on nonsense.
The Stoics were obsessed with death. Memento mori, remember you will die, wasn't meant to be depressing, it was meant to be the wake-up call that makes you actually live. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that he wouldn't be here forever, that every day could be his last, that everyone he loved would eventually die. Cheerful guy at parties, right? But here's the thing. When you genuinely internalize your mortality, all the petty nonsense evaporates. That argument you've been having with your sibling over something that happened 12 years ago suddenly seems stupid when you remember that one of you will die first and the other will wish they'd spent less time being right and more time being kind. That dream you keep putting off because you're waiting for the perfect time suddenly becomes urgent when you remember that perfect timing is a myth and death doesn't check your calendar before showing up. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." We act like we have infinite tomorrows, so we spend today scrolling, procrastinating, staying in situations that drain us, avoiding difficult conversations, playing small, and generally treating our one precious life like it's a rough draft. Then we wake up at 40 or 60 or 80 and wonder where all the time went. The Stoics kept death close not to be morbid, but to be free. When you remember you're going to die, you stop caring so much about what strangers think of you. You stop postponing joy. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop saving your nice dishes for special occasions and realize that being alive is the special occasion. There's a modern practice based on this ancient wisdom where people imagine they're at the end of their life looking back. What do they wish they'd done more of? What do they wish they'd cared less about? Then they use those answers to guide how they live now, because the only way to avoid regret at the end is to live with intention in the middle. But here's the truth that'll change how you interact with everyone.
Truth number 3. Wait, we're at 6. Other people's opinions of you are none of your business, and chasing approval is volunteering for slavery. Marcus Aurelius literally wrote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others." Think about how wild that is. You care more about what random people think of you than what you think of yourself. You'll ignore your own values to win approval from people whose values you don't even respect. The Stoics understood that seeking approval is the fastest way to lose yourself. Epictetus said, if you're upset because someone doesn't like you, you've given them power over your emotional state. You've essentially said, "Here, stranger, hold my happiness. I'll wait here anxiously, hoping you give it back." Here's the brutal truth. People are thinking about you way less than you think they are because they're too busy worrying about what you think of them. It's this hilarious circle of mutual anxiety where everyone's performing for an audience that isn't actually paying attention. And even when people do have opinions about you, those opinions say more about them than they say about you. Someone thinks you're too ambitious? That's their relationship with ambition talking. Someone thinks you're too quiet? That's their discomfort with silence talking. Someone thinks you're too much? That's their capacity revealing itself. You could cure cancer and someone would complain that you put oncologists out of business. The moment you stop performing for approval and start living according to your own values, something incredible happens. The right people show up. The people who like the real you stick around. The people who only liked the performance leave. And that's not a loss, that's a filter working exactly as intended. Seneca put it perfectly. If you live according to nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to opinion, you'll never be rich. Translation, if you live by your own values, you'll always have enough. If you live for other people's approval, you'll be perpetually starving for validation that never satisfies. Now let's talk about the truth that makes uncomfortable situations completely manageable. Truth number 7. Discomfort is data, not danger, and your avoidance of it is keeping you exactly where you don't want to be. The Stoics had this practice called voluntary discomfort, where they'd intentionally make themselves uncomfortable.
Seneca would sleep on hard floors. Cato would walk through Rome barefoot in winter. Marcus Aurelius would take cold baths. Your first thought is probably these guys were masochists, but you're missing the genius here. They were training themselves to be unfazed by discomfort so that when real hardship showed up, and it always does, they wouldn't crumble. They were building resilience at the same way you build muscle, through progressive overload. You don't get strong by avoiding the weight. You get strong by lifting increasingly heavy things until what used to be impossible becomes your warm-up. Here's what we've forgotten in our climate-controlled, same-day delivery, algorithmically curated for maximum comfort modern world. Discomfort is where all growth happens. Every single thing worth achieving lives on the other side of discomfort. Want a better body? That requires the discomfort of exercise and saying no to foods that taste amazing but make you feel terrible. Want better relationships? That requires the discomfort of vulnerability and difficult conversations. Want financial freedom? That requires the discomfort of delayed gratification and learning skills that make your brain hurt. But we've been conditioned to interpret discomfort as a stop sign, when it's actually a road sign pointing toward growth. Your heart races before a presentation. That's not your body telling you to run, that's your body giving you energy to perform. You feel awkward at networking events. That's not confirmation you should leave. That's the growing pains of expanding your social capacity. You struggle with a new skill. That's not proof you lack talent. That's your brain literally rewiring itself to accommodate new information. The Stoics knew that the person who can tolerate discomfort is free, and the person who constantly seeks comfort is enslaved to whatever provides it. Think about it. If you can only be happy when everything's perfect, you've given the entire unpredictable universe control over your well-being. But if you can be okay when things are uncomfortable, difficult, or downright terrible, you're anti-fragile. You don't just survive chaos, you get stronger from it. Modern research backs this up completely. There's a reason cold exposure, intermittent fasting, and high-intensity training are having a moment. We're rediscovering what the Stoics always knew. Controlled exposure to discomfort builds physical and mental resilience. Your comfort zone isn't a place to live, it's a place to return to temporarily before venturing out again. Here's the shift that changes everything. Stop asking, how can I avoid discomfort? And start asking, what discomfort, if I embraced, would completely transform my life? That's where your power is. But wait until you hear about the truth that completely reframes failure. Truth number 8. Failure is feedback, and the only real failure is not extracting the lesson. Cleanthes, one of the early Stoic philosophers, said fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling. Beautiful, right? What he meant was that life is going to life regardless of whether you're on board with the curriculum. You can resist, complain, and learn nothing, or you can lean in, pay attention, and extract every available lesson. Either way, the class is in session. The Stoics didn't have a concept of failure the way we do. They had learning experiences and character-building opportunities. When something didn't go according to plan, their first question wasn't, why me? It was, what's the lesson here? Marcus Aurelius literally wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. We covered this earlier, but it deserves repeating because we still treat setbacks like endings instead of plot twists. Thomas Edison tried thousands of materials before finding the right filament for the light bulb. Reporters asked him how it felt to fail so many times. His response? I didn't fail. I just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That's Stoic philosophy in action. Every failure was data. Every unsuccessful attempt eliminated an option and brought him closer to the solution. You know what actually is failure? Trying something, having it not work, and then deciding that that means you should never try anything again. That's failure. Trying something, having it not work, learning why it didn't work, adjusting your approach and trying again differently, that's called being a functional human being engaged in the process of growth. Here's the thing that'll blow your mind. Your biggest successes will come from your biggest failures, not despite them, because of them. That business that tanked taught you what you needed to know to build the one that succeeds. That relationship that ended taught you what you actually need in a partner. That audition you bombed taught you how to prepare better and manage nerves. The universe is not punishing you with failure, it's educating you. But you have to be humble enough and aware enough to be teachable. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Your failures are the gym for your character. You can skip leg day if you want, but don't complain when life requires you to carry something heavy and your legs give out. Stop treating failure like it's a referendum on your worth and start treating it like it's tuition for the university of becoming who you're meant to be. The only real failure is learning nothing, changing nothing, and trying nothing different while expecting different results. That's not philosophy, that's the definition of insanity. Now here's the truth that makes decision-making exponentially easier.
Truth number 9, you become what you repeatedly do, and your habits are either building your dream life or dismantling it. There's no neutral. Aristotle said it, the Stoics lived it, and modern neuroscience confirms it. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. You are not your intentions. You are not your aspirations. You are not your potential. You are the sum total of your daily behaviors repeated over time. That's it. That's the formula. The Stoics were fanatical about discipline and routine because they understood that character isn't built in moments of crisis, it's revealed in them. Character is built in the 1,000 tiny decisions you make when nobody's watching. Do you hit snooze or get up? Do you scroll or read? Do you complain or find solutions? Do you react or respond? These micro-decisions seem insignificant in the moment, but compounded over weeks, months, and years, they become the architecture of your entire life. Marcus Aurelius had the same morning routine every single day, even though he was the emperor of Rome and could have done literally whatever he wanted. Why? Because he knew that discipline in the small things creates the foundation for excellence in the big things. You can't be disciplined in a crisis if you're undisciplined in your daily life. It doesn't work that way. Here's the truth bomb. Your current habits are perfectly designed to give you the results you're currently getting. If you don't like your results, stop looking for some external solution and start auditing your daily behaviors. You want to be a writer, but you don't write every day? You're not a writer. You're someone who wants to be a writer. You want to be fit, but you don't move your body consistently. You're not committed to fitness. You're committed to the idea of being fit, which costs nothing and delivers nothing. The gap between who you are and who you want to be is filled with daily disciplines you haven't implemented yet. That's literally it. Every person you admire, every transformation story that inspires you, every success that seems impossible, it's all just someone doing the boring, unglamorous, repetitive work that most people aren't willing to do. Epictetus said, "No great thing is created suddenly." Your dream body isn't created in one workout. Your dream career isn't created in one application. Your dream relationship isn't created in one date. Everything worthwhile is built brick by brick, rep by rep, day by day, through consistent action aligned with your values. And here's the beautiful part. Habits compound. Just like interest in a bank account, your daily behaviors either compound in your favor or compound against you. Reading 10 pages a day seems insignificant until you've read 20 books in a year, and you're infinitely more knowledgeable than you were 12 months ago. Working out for 30 minutes a day seems minimal until 6 months later you're unrecognizable. Saving a small percentage of your income seems pointless until years later you have options that other people don't have. The Stoics called this the long game, and they were obsessed with it because they understood that instant gratification is the enemy of everything you actually want. The things that feel good now often cost you later. The things that are difficult now often pay you later. Scrolling feels better than reading.
Fast food feels better than meal prep. Sleeping in feels better than morning workouts. But feels better now and builds the life you want are usually opposing forces. Your habits are a vote for the type of person you want to become. Every action is a ballot cast. Do you vote for the disciplined version of yourself or the self-indulgent version? The proactive version or the reactive version? The growing version or the stagnant version? You vote with every decision, and at the end of the day, the week, the year, the votes are tallied and you get the life you voted for. Stop waiting for motivation. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. Discipline is a practice, and practice is what builds the life you actually want. The Stoics didn't wait to feel like being virtuous. They practiced virtue regardless of how they felt. They didn't wait to feel like being disciplined. They practiced discipline especially when they didn't feel like it. Here's your reality check. If you keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep getting what you're getting. If you want different results, you need different behaviors. And those behaviors need to become so automatic, so ingrained, so non-negotiable that they're just who you are. That's when everything changes. Now let's get to the truth that makes worry obsolete.
Truth number 10. The present moment is the only place where life actually happens, and you're missing it while time traveling to anxieties that don't exist. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." 3 words, entire philosophy. The Stoics understood something that modern psychology is just now confirming through research. Worry is nothing more than your mind time traveling to a future that doesn't exist yet and probably never will, or to a past that's already over and can't be changed. Meanwhile, the only moment that actually exists, the present, is being completely ignored. Think about what worry actually is. You're sitting in your comfortable home, physically safe, with food in your fridge and a roof over your head, but your mind is catastrophizing about a meeting next week, replaying an embarrassing moment from 5 years ago, or creating elaborate disaster scenarios about things that have a 0.01% chance of happening. Your body is here, your mind is everywhere else, and you wonder why you feel fragmented and exhausted. The Stoics practiced radical presence, not as a spiritual bypassing technique where you ignore real problems, but as a practical tool for effectiveness. When you're fully present, you can actually address what needs addressing. When you're worried about tomorrow while supposedly working today, you're neither solving tomorrow's problems nor doing today's work well. You're just creating mental static that drains your energy and produces nothing useful. Seneca absolutely destroyed this tendency when he wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Read that again. The vast majority of what you worry about never happens. The presentation you stressed about for weeks goes fine. The conversation you dreaded goes better than expected. The disaster you prepared for doesn't materialize. You just spent hours, days, or weeks torturing yourself over fiction. And even when bad things do happen, they're rarely as catastrophic as your worry predicted. You get rejected. It stings for a day, then you move on. You make a mistake. You apologize, learn, and improve. You face a setback. You adjust and find another path. But the worry leading up to these events, that causes more suffering than the events themselves. Here's the shift. Every time you notice your mind time traveling, bring it back. Right now, in this moment, am I okay? Usually the answer is yes. Right now, you're breathing. Right now, you're safe. Right now, there's no emergency. The emergency is only happening in your imagination, and imagination is not reality. This doesn't mean you don't plan for the future. Planning is useful. Worry is not. Planning says, here's what I'll do if X happens. Worry says, what if X happens, on repeat without any productive action? See the difference? One is preparation, one is just mental self-harm. The Stoics also knew that presence is where joy lives. You can't enjoy your coffee while worrying about your to-do list. You can't enjoy time with loved ones while mentally rehearsing an argument with your boss. You can't enjoy a beautiful sunset while scrolling through bad news. Presence is the admission fee for experiencing anything good.
Meditation, which has become incredibly popular, is basically just Stoic presence practice repackaged. You train your mind to stay where your body is. You notice when it wanders to worry and you bring it back, over and over. That's the practice. And like any practice, it gets easier with repetition. Your life is happening now. Not tomorrow, not after you achieve the goal, not when circumstances are perfect. Now. And every moment you spend worrying about then is a moment you're not experiencing now. At the end of your life, you won't regret the things that didn't go perfectly. You'll regret the moments you missed because you were too busy worrying to actually be present for them. Epictetus, literally running an empire during a plague with barbarians at the gates, still found time to write about the importance of being present. If he could manage it under those circumstances, you can manage it while waiting in line at the grocery store. And now we arrive at the final truth, the one that ties everything together and makes all the other truths actually work.
You didn't get the promotion? Not entitled to it. What's your move? Find out why, improve, and try again. Or find a better opportunity elsewhere. Relationship ended badly? Not entitled to closure or fairness. What's your move? Learn, heal, and build better boundaries next time. Got dealt a difficult hand in life? Not entitled to an easy one. What's your move? Play the hand you have with skill instead of folding and complaining about the cards. This is the ultimate Stoic teaching. You don't control what happens, but you control what you do with what happens. And when you stop believing you're entitled to specific outcomes, you free up all that energy you were spending on resentment and redirect it toward actually creating the life you want with the resources you have. The Stoics lived this ruthlessly. Marcus Aurelius was born into privilege, but he never acted entitled to it. He knew it could all be taken away, so he practiced virtue as if he had nothing and gratitude as if he had everything. Epictetus had nothing, literally started as property, but he achieved greatness because he never wasted time lamenting what he wasn't entitled to. He just maximized what he could control. This final truth is the one that makes all the others work. You can only control your thoughts, actions, and responses when you release the belief that you're entitled to control more. You can only see obstacles as opportunities when you release the belief that you're entitled to an obstacle-free path. You can only embrace discomfort when you release the belief that you're entitled to comfort. You can only be present when you release the belief that you're entitled to a better past or guaranteed future. You can only build powerful habits when you release the belief that you're entitled to results without effort. Everything comes back to this. Release entitlement, embrace reality, take responsibility, and watch your life transform. Not because the universe suddenly starts giving you what you want, but because you stop needing the universe to cooperate in order to be okay, to be happy, to be effective, to create something meaningful.
So, here we are. 11 Stoic truths that sound simple but are devastatingly effective when you actually apply them. Let's recap real quick because these deserve to be seared into your brain. You only control your thoughts, actions, and responses. Stop wasting energy on the rest. Obstacles aren't roadblocks, they're the curriculum. Negative visualization isn't pessimism, it's the gratitude and preparation hack. Your interpretation of events matters more than the events themselves. Death isn't morbid, it's the perspective tool that makes you stop wasting time. Other people's opinions are none of your business. Discomfort is data, not danger. Failure is feedback, not a final verdict. You become what you repeatedly do. Your habits are building or destroying your future. The present moment is the only place life actually happens, and you're not entitled to anything, which is actually the most freeing realization possible. Now, here's the part where I'm supposed to tell you to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and all that standard YouTube stuff. And yeah, do that if you found this valuable. It genuinely helps the channel and means I can keep making content like this. But more importantly, here's what I actually want you to do. Pick one of these truths, just one, the one that hit you hardest, the one that made you uncomfortable, the one that your mind immediately tried to argue with or justify away. That's the one you need to work on. And I want you to spend the next week, just 7 days, actively practicing it.
If it's the dichotomy of control, spend this week catching yourself trying to control things you can't and redirecting that energy to what you can. If it's negative visualization, spend 5 minutes each morning imagining losing something you take for granted and notice how it changes your appreciation. If it's releasing entitlement, catch yourself expecting things and consciously reframe them as preferences or hopes instead of guarantees. The Stoics didn't philosophize for fun, they philosophized for transformation. And transformation doesn't come from consuming information, it comes from applying it. You can watch every video on Stoicism, read every book, memorize every quote, and still be exactly as anxious, frustrated, and stuck as you are right now if you don't actually practice any of it. So, that's the challenge. One truth, 7 days. Real application. And then come back and tell me what changed. Drop a comment below with which truth you're choosing and why. Hold yourself accountable, because the Stoics knew that philosophy without practice is just intellectual entertainment. And you didn't stick with this video for 6,000 words to be entertained. You stuck with it because some part of you knows you're ready to change. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, never meant to be published, just him coaching himself, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. Stop consuming content about how to live better and start living better. The information is here. The truths are ancient and proven. The only variable is whether you'll actually implement them." And look, I know this isn't easy. If it were easy, everyone would be doing it, and the world would be full of peaceful, present, powerful people, instead of anxious, distracted, struggling people. The Stoic path is simple, but not easy. It requires discipline, self-awareness, and a willingness to be uncomfortable in the short term for freedom in the long term. But here's what I can promise you. If you genuinely apply even one of these truths consistently, your life will start working better. Not because the universe suddenly becomes cooperative, because you become more effective at navigating the universe as it actually is. You'll worry less, you'll waste less energy on things that don't matter. You'll be more present, you'll be more resilient, you'll build better habits. You'll stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the author of your response to them. The ancient Stoics figured out how to maintain peace and effectiveness in the middle of plagues, wars, betrayals, and empires collapsing. You can figure out how to maintain peace and effectiveness in the middle of your modern challenges. The principles are the same. The human condition hasn't changed. What worked for them will work for you if you actually use it. So, here's my final thought, and then I'll let you go actually do something with all this. The gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't filled with more information. You have enough information. The gap is filled with implementation, with practice, with the daily choice to embody these truths instead of just knowing about them. You know what to do now. The question is, will you do it? That's it. That's the video. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. If you want more content like this, deep dives into ancient wisdom that actually applies to modern life, subscribe because there's a lot more coming. And if you're ready to go even deeper into Stoic practice, I've got other videos breaking down specific techniques and applications. But for now, close this video, pick your truth, and start practicing. Because the Stoics weren't interested in students, they were interested in practitioners. And the world doesn't need more people who know about Stoicism. It needs more people who live it. Now, go be one of them.